The phone rang just as the Arizona sun was sinking low, painting my living room in shades of blood red and gold. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another scammer, but something in my chest told me to pick up. What I heard made my knees buckle. A trembling voice, my son's neighbor in Texas, said, "Mrs. Tanya, I think something has happened to Ethan. We found him collapsed inside the house. Melissa was not here. She left hours ago, dressed up, and has not returned. I am so sorry." My hand shook so violently, the phone slipped and clattered to the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs as though trying to break free. My only son, my Ethan, the boy I had raised after my husband passed away, was lying helpless while his wife partied like nothing was wrong. I could not breathe. I could not even pray. I just stood there in the silence of my home, feeling as though the walls themselves were closing in. But what happened next? What I found in Texas was far darker than anything I could have imagined. Before I go further, I want to take a moment to speak to you, my wonderful YouTube family. To every single one of you who has subscribed, thank you. Your love and support fuel my heart and give me the courage to share these difficult stories. To all my new viewers, I am so grateful you are here. Please hit that subscribe button right now. It is the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. And do not forget to leave your thoughts in the comments because your voices matter. I cannot wait to read them. Now, let us return to the story. My name is Tanya. I am 60 years old, a retired nurse living in Arizona. My son Ethan is 35. He is a kind man, gentle and hardworking, with eyes that mirror his late father's. He married Melissa 5 years ago, a woman who seemed charming at first, but grew distant and cold with time. They have a daughter, Lily, a little girl with curls that bounce when she laughs, and a smile that lights up any room. Family has been my anchor since my husband passed away 12 years ago. I poured all of my love and energy into Ethan and Lily, but that night, when I received that call, I felt as though my entire world was being ripped apart. I booked the earliest flight to Texas, my fingers trembling as I typed. The hours dragged like days. My chest burned with fear, my mind racing with images of Ethan lying alone, begging for help that never came. I whispered prayers into the plane's thin air, gripping the armrest until my knuckles whitened. I begged God not to take my son away from me. When the plane landed in Dallas, my legs were weak, but my determination stronger than ever. A taxi carried me through the Texas night, past glowing neon lights and endless stretches of road. Every passing mile pressed heavier on my chest. When we reached Ethan's street, I saw neighbors standing outside in small clusters, their faces pale with concern. I ran to the door, the same door I had walked through so many times before, with gifts for Lily, with hugs for my son. But this time, when it opened, I was met with the faint smell of sickness and silence. My Ethan lay slumped on the couch, his skin pale, his lips cracked, his breathing shallow. His eyes fluttered open, and when he saw me, tears slipped down his cheeks. "Mother," he whispered, his voice barely a breath. "Mother, she did this to me."
His words sliced through me like a blade. My knees buckled, and I fell beside him, clutching his hand. The weight of his confession settled over me like a storm cloud. What had Melissa done? And why was she gone, leaving my son to die while she partied somewhere under glittering lights? I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him, to demand more answers. But his head slumped back, his body too weak to say more. In that moment, rage, grief, and fear collided inside me, a storm that threatened to consume me whole. But deep down, one thought burned brighter than all the rest. I would find the truth. I would uncover what Melissa had done, and I would not rest until justice was served. Because no mother should ever walk into her son's home and find him dying, abandoned, and betrayed. I struggled to lift Ethan, whispering reassurances as if my trembling voice could will strength back into his body. I wrapped my arm around him, feeling bones where muscles used to be. How long had he been like this? How long had he been suffering alone? A neighbor named Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman with kind eyes, rushed in to help me. Together we eased Ethan into her car and sped toward the hospital. The entire drive, I held Ethan's hand and kept my eyes fixed on the road ahead, afraid that if I looked at him too long, I would break. Once we reached the hospital, doctors rushed him away on a stretcher. I stood frozen in the hallway, hands clasped, mind spinning. My son's last words echoed inside me like a haunting bell. "Mother, she did this to me." What had he meant? Had she hurt him physically? Emotionally? Neglected him to the point of collapse? A nurse approached me after what felt like an eternity. She said Ethan was severely dehydrated, malnourished, and had traces of unprescribed medication in his system. My blood ran cold. "Unprescribed?" I asked, my voice as sharp as shattered glass. "Yes," she replied carefully, "something that should not have been in his bloodstream. He is lucky to be alive." Lucky. Lucky that his neighbor had found him. Lucky that I had answered that call. Lucky that he was still breathing. But where was Melissa? I sat in the waiting room, my hands clenched tightly in my lap. The white walls and quiet beeping of machines around me felt suffocating. Every second stretched like hours. And then, click-clack, click-clack. Heels echoed across the tile floor. I looked up. There she was. Melissa walked toward me wearing a tight red dress, her hair curled, makeup still fresh from whatever party she had crawled out of. She held her phone in one hand and an attitude in the other. "Oh, you are here," she said flatly, as if my presence was inconvenient rather than expected. I stood, fury rising like fire beneath my ribs. "Where were you?" She rolled her eyes. "At a friend's event. Why? Is Ethan being dramatic again?" Dramatic? My vision blurred with rage. "I said he was almost dead!" I shouted, my voice echoing through the hall. People turned to look. Melissa's expression flickered, but only for a second. She crossed her arms. "He has been sick for a while. I told him to get help. He refused." "Refused?" I repeated slowly. "Or did you refuse to care?" She scoffed. "Do not blame this on me. He does nothing but sleep and sulk. I am not his nurse." My breath caught. She had said it so casually, so heartlessly, as if the vows she had spoken on their wedding day meant nothing. In sickness and in health, forgotten like yesterday's news. I stepped closer. "I was a nurse for 20 years. I have seen many sick men. Not one of them ended up in this condition without neglect." She glared at me, her mask finally cracking with irritation. "Are you accusing me of something?" Before I could answer, a small voice broke through the tension. "Grandma?" I turned. There stood Lily, clutching a stuffed bunny, her brown curls damp with tears. She must have been in the hospital with a neighbor or social worker. My heart broke at the sight of her trembling lip. I knelt and opened my arms. She ran into them like she had been waiting her whole life for that embrace. "Grandma," she whispered into my shoulder. "Daddy was crying." "I know, baby. I'm here now." Then she pulled back and looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes. Mommy said he was faking it, but I saw her give him something before she left. My breath froze. I stared at her, pulse roaring in my ears like thunder. What did she give him? I asked softly. Lily blinked, then whispered a word so quiet I almost missed it. Medicine. But Daddy said he did not want it. My spine turned to ice. Slowly, I stood and faced Melissa. She looked stunned, caught. For a moment, silence stretched between us like a drawn blade. Then her lips curled, not in fear, but in defiance. You have no proof. She turned to walk away, but I spoke before she could take another step. Maybe not yet, but I will. Her shoulders stiffened, because in that moment, she finally understood. She was not facing a weak old woman. She was facing a mother, and mothers do not lose. Not when their children are in danger.
I did not sleep that night. I sat beside Ethan's hospital bed, holding his hand, listening to the soft beeping of machines keeping him alive. His skin was clammy, his breathing heavy. Every rise and fall of his chest was a battle. I brushed his hair back from his forehead and whispered promises into the dim room. I will not let her hurt you again. I will protect you, even if it is the last thing I do. Morning sunlight crept through the blinds, casting pale stripes across Ethan's face. When his eyes finally fluttered open, I leaned in, relief flooding through me. Ethan, it is Mother. Can you hear me? His lips parted. His voice came out hoarse and broken. Do not trust her. Tears welled in my eyes. I will not, I said firmly. But I need to know, Ethan. What did she give you? His fingers tightened weakly around mine. She switched my medication, said it was stronger, said it would make me better, but it made me worse. Every day felt like poison burning through me. Anger surged inside me like wildfire. She had done more than neglect him. She had systematically drained the life out of him. Why did you not tell me? I asked, my voice trembling. His eyes filled with guilt. Because I thought she still loved me. I did not want to believe she could ever. He trailed off, choking on his own heartbreak. I kissed his hand. It is not your fault. Love makes fools of the best of us. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Melissa stepped in. But she was not alone. Standing beside her was a tall, well-groomed man in a suit. He carried a black briefcase and wore an expression too confident for someone walking into the aftermath of attempted murder. Ethan's face drained of color. "Mother," he whispered urgently, "that is him." I rose slowly, my eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" I demanded. The man smiled politely, as though introducing himself at a dinner party. "My name is Daniel Hayes, attorney at law. I represent Melissa." "Represent?" I repeated, stunned. "You already hired a lawyer?" Melissa crossed her arms smugly. "Just taking precautions. Your accusations last night were out of line." I scoffed. "Out of line? My son is in a hospital bed fighting for his life because of you." Daniel stepped forward calmly. "Mrs. Tanya, I understand that this is emotional for you. However, unless you have physical proof of wrongdoing,
I suggest you refrain from making defamatory statements. My jaw clenched so hard I felt pain shoot up to my temples. Physical proof. That was what they wanted. They believed they were safe because I had nothing but suspicion. But they were wrong, because suddenly a thought flashed across my mind. The house. His bathroom. His pill bottles. I grabbed my purse. Melissa smirked. Leaving already? I turned to her with fire in my eyes. Yes, to collect what you destroyed. The drive back to Ethan's house felt like moving through a storm of memories. I could still smell his scent in the hallway. I could see Lily's crowns scattered near the coffee table. I could feel the ghost of his last desperate moments lingering in the air. I went straight to the bathroom. I opened the cabinet. My heart pounded as I examined every bottle. That was when I found them. 2 identical pill containers. Same label, same dosage. But one had a faint scratch along the side. I opened both and poured the pills into separate piles on the counter. One set was completely white. The other had a faint tint, almost unnoticeable unless seen in direct light. I froze. This was not medication. This was substitution. Tampering. Evidence. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, snapping photos from every angle. That was when I heard a sound behind me. A soft creak. Slow footsteps. I turned, my breath catching in my throat. Melissa stepped in the doorway. But she was not smiling this time. Her eyes were cold, empty, dangerous. You should not have come back here, Tanya. Her voice was no longer mocking. It was a threat. She stepped closer. You do not understand what you are getting involved in. I held my ground. I understand enough. You tried to kill my son. She tilted her head slightly. I did what I had to do. He was going to ruin everything. My pulse roared. What do you mean? She smirked darkly. You really think this was about love, about marriage? She stepped closer, her lips close to my ear. Ask him about the insurance policy. I froze. Insurance. A cold shiver raced down my spine. Before I could react, she leaned in, her lips close to my ear. He was worth more to me sick than alive. My blood turned to ice. She stepped back, her eyes burning through me. You can't prove anything. I lifted my phone. Oh, but I can. Her confidence flickered. But before she could speak again, a small voice cut through the tension. Mommy? Melissa stiffened. I turned slowly. Lily stood in the hallway, clutching her stuffed bunny, tears in her eyes. She had heard everything. And in that moment, everything changed.
For a long moment, the house was silent. Melissa and I both stood frozen, staring at Lily as she clutched her stuffed bunny with trembling hands. Her small chest rose and fell rapidly, fear twisting her little face. Lily, I whispered softly, stepping toward her. But before I could reach her, she turned and ran, not to her mother, but into my arms. She buried her face in my stomach and sobbed. Grandma, I do not want to stay with her. Please do not make me go with her. Something inside me broke. A dam I had been holding for years finally shattered.
I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tightly, shielding her with every ounce of strength I had left. Melissa's face twisted with panic. "Lily, get back here right now!" I turned slowly, my voice steady and cold. "No." She blinked. "No," she repeated, stunned. I straightened my spine. "I have tolerated your disrespect. I have endured your lies. But this, what you did to Ethan, what you have done to Lily, this ends now." She scoffed, though her eyes flickered with uncertainty. "You have no right to take her." I lifted my phone with one hand, still holding Lily with the other. Maybe I do not, but the police will. I dialed 911 right in front of her. Her eyes widened. "You are making a mistake, Tanya." "No," I said firmly. "The mistake was trusting you." The officers arrived within 20 minutes. I showed them the pill bottles, the photos, and repeated everything Melissa had said to my face. They questioned Lily, who trembled but answered bravely. She spoke about nights crying alone, about her father being too weak to stand, about her mother laughing while he begged for help. It was enough to act on. They handcuffed Melissa right there in her own hallway. She thrashed, screaming curses, threatening lawsuits, calling me every cruel name she could invent. But I stood stone still, holding Lily while she watched her mother being led away. As Melissa was pushed into the police car, she looked at me through the window with a stare that could cut glass. "This is not over," she mouthed, but I already knew that. Some battles do not end with an arrest. They end with healing. The next few weeks were a blur of doctors, lawyers, child protective services, and endless questions. Ethan recovered slowly, gaining strength with each passing day. When he was finally strong enough to speak clearly, I told him everything that had happened. Every detail, every word, every action. He cried. Not because he was weak, but because realizing the person he trusted most had been slowly killing him was a pain no man should ever endure. But even through tears, he whispered one thing over and over. "Thank you, Mother. You saved my life." Months passed. Melissa was charged with attempted manslaughter, medical tampering, and child endangerment. Her lawyer tried every trick in the book to soften the blow, but nothing could erase her recorded admission or Lily's testimony. Ethan was awarded full custody. I moved them both back to Arizona with me. Our home, once quiet and lonely, was now filled with laughter, healing, and the smell of fresh pancakes every morning. But one night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she looked at me with serious eyes. "Grandma," she whispered, "are we safe now?" I stroked her hair gently. "Yes, baby, we are safe now." She nodded, letting the words sink in. Then she smiled softly. "Can I call you Mom, too?" Tears spilled down my face before I could stop them. "You can call me whatever your heart wants." She wrapped her little arms around me. In that moment, I realized something powerful. Family is not always about blood. Sometimes it is about who stands up when evil tries to win. Never ignore a whisper from your spirit. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Love should never drain the life from you. A mother's instinct is louder than any lie. And when truth finally rises, even the darkest schemes crumble.
Thank you so much for listening to my story. If this touched your heart, please drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button and make sure you subscribe so more people can hear stories like this. Your support keeps this channel alive. Would you have done the same if you were in my position? I will be reading every comment.